maybe we could get into some psychedelics.
Sure. Yeah.
What are some you had some trips, I'm pretty sure, right?
All of my medicine journeys have been in the US. I actually, for like 6 months at my home there in Santa Rosa, I was hosting mushroom ceremonies like every 2 weeks for 6 months.
Oh,
And
oh
we
my
had
God.
some,
How did
that
that
was around the
start?
time that, yeah, that was around the time that we originally, I think, connected.
Okay.
Um, I don't know how it specifically started. I'm inclined to say that I, did a 3-day ayahuasca journey. Um, Initially, I had to, I ate mushrooms in college and stuff like that, a
Hmm.
number of different times. But like back then, like we're just partying, bro, like trying to have a good time. Like I didn't look at this stuff as medicine.
Hmm.
I don't eat mushrooms casually now unless I'm microdosing.
Yeah.
But I sat with ayahuasca, did a 3-day journey with that. I began working with a dear friend of mine, Bearheart, and his group La Forza Sagrada, where it was probably 5-ish years ago, and I was looking for um, a kind of a men's group to kind of helped me take the next step,
Hmm.
in my soul's evolution. And I looked into Sacred Sons, and it didn't perfectly resonate with me at the time. And for whatever reason, I came across Bearheart and began working with him and his group, which I then moved into kind of a facilitator role eventually with him in some ceremonies and retreats that we were doing.
Hmm.
Um, sat in some plant ceremonies around the fire with him, learning a lot from him and his wisdom and the wisdom of the plants. It was ayahuasca. Um, it was oh gosh, I can't think of it right now, but I know what it is. What's the
Ibogaine,
no? What's the
uh,
cactus? The cactus
peyote,
medicine, the grandfather medicine. Not
sasan,
yeah, San Pedro.
San Pedro. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Right,
um,
right.
some San Pedro, and then some mushroom ceremonies over the years also, and different different retreats with mushroom ceremonies. And it just in that and the some of the profound experiences that I had, my partner and I at the time, we began having our own mushroom ceremonies actually.
Mm, okay.
Um, her and I, just her and I, a couple weeks in a row there. We're like, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. And then we started inviting people and kind of the circle grew and, some really profound things were happening. And we just did a really beautiful job of setting the space for everybody and, walking people into and through these journeys where sometimes, you know, I was balls deep and in my process. Other times I was more sober, vice versa with her, with other people around the room. At one point, a dear sister of ours began channeling, and she'd never experienced this before. And I was peaking, bro. Okay, like,
Yeah.
and she starts channeling messages from the Lemurians, and
Ooh.
I like lean over to my partner, and I'm like, yo, who is that? Because like that's not my friend, right? Like
Mhm.
like that's like her voice changed, like everything. And she began channeling this message from the Lemurians, which I then actually we got permission to videotape. Because I'm like, the sacredness of ceremony, you don't usually bring
Yeah.
any type of photography or videography into ceremonial space.
Right.
And we kind of got permission to film, and I like did my best to like crawl across the room to her, and she's like doing all kinds of weird shit all over the floor, and like
Whoa.
um
Okay.
at one point they're kind of taking control of her physical body and like kind of being rough with it, and she had to like set a boundary, like
Yeah.
hey, this is my body, like
channeling can be really dangerous. Yeah.
And she never experienced anything like that before. So to her, it was like this really unique thing and also kind of scary. But like one of the things that I'll never forget is like she was like, the corporations, stop consuming the corporations. And like everything that she was saying was not anything that we didn't already know. You know what I
Right.
mean? It was
Right.
just kind of confirmation of all of these things. And
Information. Yeah.
one of the things is what they thanked us for the beautiful space and the ceremony that we had sat, and they basically the container that we were holding for everyone.
Hmm.
And it was just, it was crazy. At one point, a friend of mine was sitting over in the corner, and he burned through an entire sage stick through the whole ceremony. Like he lit it and was blowing on it and crying and blowing on it and crying and weeping. And then at one point, it was really interesting, bro. Like that ceremony specifically, I was like in a headstand formation like 75% of the ceremony. So for like 2 to 3 hours, I was in a headstand and I was like, wow, wow, and like all of this noise was just coming out of me, right? And
Yeah.
and I received the message on the back side of it that all of that release that I was doing was actually for him, that I was, because he was over there very silently and quietly, like weeping and blowing on this sage to cleanse himself. And
Mm.
for whatever reason, he wasn't able to release what was coming through him in more of a profound way. And so that came through me. And I think one of the people that was actually in the ceremony at the time was uncomfortable with what was going on. And I believe her and her partner, who her partner was sober, left and went outside for like a couple hours because it was, I mean, think about it. Like you're tripping on mushrooms, you're
Yeah.
deep into a mushroom ceremony. You got this fucking guy doing a headstand making obnoxious noises. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you're not in a good space, you're gonna be like, yo, I'm freaking out. I need to get out of here, you know? Like, and so they very quietly, exit stage left, and we're outside going through whatever her process needed to
Yeah,
be,
right,
you
right, right. Because
know?
I'm sure there's a lot of like inner like kind of like overlapping of people's like you know what I mean, like their consciousness and their karmas and stuff, right? And you might actually pick something up that you might not want, right? Too.
So that's something that it's really important. This is It's spiritual warfare.
Yeah,
You are entering into a spirit realm where there are unknown forces that, there can be entity attachments, right? Like,
the
like
astral.
it, it,
Yeah.
it can go from something that's supposed to be beneficial and healing to something that can actually be harmful, which is why it's really, really important that whoever it is that's facilitating, whoever the medicine person is who's facilitating, is very much aware of these energies and understanding that the cleansing needs to be going on. That you
Mm,
need to have a sage stick, you need to have different essential oils, and you need to have music, and you need to have maybe open windows,
mm,
or understand the power of singing a song, or kind of
yep.
calling things out of people and transmuting that, right? And I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
very lucky in my 3-day medicine ceremony to be facilitated by a very, very powerful medicine woman who was hyper aware of these energies and was constantly cleansing rose water and eagle leaves, or eagle
mm,
feathers, and you know what I mean, owl wings and feathers and stuff like that. And these are cleansing tools that can be used on top of opening a door and allowing things out.
mm,
It's really important to be cleansing your vessel and to be aware of the energies that are present in the room and what's being called out of people,
mm,
or what is potentially present that could be harmful for people, right? So I always tell anybody who is going to go into a medicine space, like, just make sure that you're vetting whoever it is and you're consulting your intuition, and like you have a specific intention going in, of what you want to work on and what you want to heal, or what experience you're wanting to have.
right.
Secondly, that like this is something that you need and this is the correct time for it. And thirdly, that you need to be able to trust the people who you are relying on for your safety, and especially for women. Like heard far too many stories of women who are being taken advantage of sexually by the medicine people who are in charge of keeping, who are protecting them, or for instance, the woman who led us through my first ayahuasca journey, said that the man that she learned from would be like drinking as much ayahuasca as everyone else was that he was training, and he's knocked the fuck out in the corner, like, and for
Yeah.
her, it was almost like an example of like what she doesn't want to be in that space. Like there's a lot of ayahuasqueros, they're called, right?
Hmm.
Medicine men who facilitate ayahuasca ceremonies who basically release any and all responsibility. So like people die in the ceremonies, and their viewpoint on it is that's their journey. That's the journey that their soul was calling in. That's what the medicine wanted for them. And they take absolutely no responsibility whatsoever, which, as far as I'm concerned, like, you're a fucking sociopath and you have no business being a medicine man. You know,
Right. Well,
that
yeah,
ain't
I
it, bro.
mean,
You
yeah,
know,
I mean, right. Dang, no, that's kind of fucked up, right? I mean, you want to be in
crazy.
a safe space, right? You want to be protected, right? You want to
You're
like
coming
know
here
that
to
people are
experience
looking
healing.
after you. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Right.
So making sure that that your intentions are right going into it, that your communication is really clear with whoever's facilitating, and that you trust
Set
the
setting,
facilitator.
right? What is it? Set setting and something set and setting, right? Or something. They say like to have yeah, to have an intention, right? When you're going in, I think it's
Yeah.
like it's kind of like a magical ritual or something because I've always said, you want to write a good album, take some acid and then write it, right? Like if you're tripping, like you're just gonna come out with so much, or I mean, you could like if you have that intention, that's what's gonna happen, right? Kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, acid's a whole different one, bro. Like,
yeah, dude. Wow.
well,
That
and like which acid's LSD, right? And like
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
LSD that we have access to nowadays is not the same LSD that Timothy Leary
LSD 25, right? Or whatever.
created back in the day, right? So this is a different version of LSD that we're taking now as well.
Oh,
But like
I
one thing that LSD does, which I haven't experienced with other plant medicines, is that I can visually see the life in seemingly inanimate objects. Okay. Generally, plants, right? Where you look at this plant at, like, for instance, a bush or a tree, and that bush and that tree is breathing, right? And there's this connectivity to the whole of the plant that in my sober state, I'm not able to see. No matter how much I stare at that bush or that plant and I try and kind of zone out and see the whole plant as one entity and not each leaf as separate,
yeah, 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 yeah.
right? LSD connects those things, and you're seeing the entire entity of the. It's like when you see a time lapse of trees or plants, right, where they're following the sun and stuff, and you realize that this is this conscious living thing.
Right.
LSD kind of brings that out, so you can in real time see it right now, and you realize in that moment that's actually the nature of reality of that entity, that plant, that whatever it is. And that in our sober state, that we're
Yeah.
not actually perceiving that, but that's how it exists. I'm not actually hallucinating.
No.
I'm seeing there's like a layer that has been peeled back that
Yeah,
allows
yeah,
me to
yeah.
kind of glimpse into this more meaningful version of the nature of life.
You're reminding me of the quote by Aldous Huxley that the Doors named their band after this quote. If the doors of perception were cleansed, we would see things as they really are, infinite, right? So it's like our perception limits what we could see, right? It's like
Yeah.
confirmation bias or something, right?
Mhm.
It's like the things you believe in is what you're gonna see in the world, right? So it's hard to like take a step back and to not have any, you know what I mean? Like
Well, and that's the human condition, right?
it is, yeah, definitely,
you know
definitely.
because there's these, Yeah, for instance, a really, really simple way to kind of like put this, I like to use this to get people to understand a little bit. Like a dog whistle exists, right?
Hmm.
Dogs hear it.
Yeah,
We don't
very
hear
true.
it because
Yes.
we don't pick up on that frequency, right? We can't hear that frequency. Like our the frequency that we can hear is very limited compared to all of the sounds that actually exist in the universe, right? And it's the same thing with our eyes. We only see three colors, right? Or a combination of those three colors. And the wavelength that we like, Wi-Fi exists. It's all over the place, right? We can't see that. Like infrared and all these
Yes.
other frequencies
Right.
exist that with cameras and certain things we can pick up on and we can see. But our eyes, the naked eye cannot perceive them. But it
No,
doesn't mean that
exactly.
they don't exist. We just can't perceive them. And the human
Well,
condition is that we only are kind of believing in what we can see and hear, even though it's a very, very limited spectrum of what actually is here.
dude, you just
Which
think
is
about
fucking
all
insane,
it's
bro, to think
nuts.
about.
I love it. It's so inspirational. Like
It's
there's
so
so
cool.
much out
Yeah.
there, right? There's so much out there we haven't experienced. Like whatever you like you're stuck in, there's something else out there for you. There always is a million other things, right? That you could be doing, that you could go and find and whatever. And then yeah, no, I know what you're talking about, like the scientific kind of explanation of like our senses can only see like a small, wavelength of
Mhm.
all the different colors, all the different sounds, right?
Mhm.
Our senses can only pick up like a small little sliver of like
Mhm.
everything that there is, right?
And we, in our human condition, we think that that's
and,
reality,
and
but
we
that's
sit here
such
and
a
we're so
small.
we're so sure about our words. We're so sure about what we're saying, man. This I know this for my opinion matters. It's you
Not
know
that
what
it
I mean.
doesn't. It does.
It
Like,
does, but you got to understand that you're just adding. You're
well, your
adding like a
opinion shapes
small
your
little bit.
reality. So,
Yeah, yeah,
like your perception shapes your reality. And back to the beginning
right.
of kind of our conversation, right?
Yeah,
Where we're speaking into existence what it is,
yeah,
like be careful what you say because every cell of your body is listening, like
yes,
you're creating your reality with your words and with your thoughts. Like nothing just becomes, it starts as an idea. Like you don't just become a successful person, whatever that is to you.
no,
What
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
First starts with an idea and then you go, if you follow that path, right?
I don't know if you saw, I just posted that status like you've ever only seen things through your eyes, right? Like since the very beginning, it's always been you choosing what you want your world to be, right? Nobody forced you. Nobody ever forced you to do anything. You know what I mean? You chose to go along with it, maybe, you know?
Mhm.
So it's like I guess a way to take our power back, right? That it's still that right now. We're still creating it however we want to, and we could change
We've
it however
created
we
all of
want.
these situations.
Yeah,
Like I can
exactly.
feel like I'm a victim to those things that happen to me where everything, even the vocabulary that I used to explain it, these things were taken from me. You know what I mean? I asked for anything that did not serve my highest good to be taken away from me. I created that. I asked for those things that were
Exactly.
not serving my highest good to no longer be in my existence.
Yes. Yeah.
And
You did
none
that.
of those things that were there were serving my highest good. The only thing that's left is my best friend. Thank fucking God.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like nothing
Beautiful.
else is there anymore. I asked for that. I created that. I'm not a
Yes.
victim to those circumstances as much as I feel victimized by those circumstances and the things that
Right.
happen because I do,
Man,
like
the victim
I was
mentality
fucked
thing.
up,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
like why is this happening to me? Oh,
Yeah.
I asked for this. I
Yep.
created this or the karma or whatever it is that you believe in, you know what I mean? In some way, shape, or form. Like we have created every situation and instance in our life to either use it to propel us to something greater.
Yes.
Well, it's all there to propel us to something greater. Whether we interpret it as such and then go with that information, which is why through all of those hardships and this kind of this dark time that I went through, everything is working out best case scenario. Everything's working out best case scenario. Everything's working out best case scenario.
Exactly.
That
Yep.
had to be my baseline, right? Because even though at the time I didn't necessarily believe that it was true, right? In the moments, right, where I'm feeling this victimized of all of these things that have happened to me, like that is my baseline inside. That is my soul's knowing that that is true, because I mean, if I think about everything that's ever happened to me, almost, almost all of the things that have happened to me, I look back and I understand exactly why it happened. So
Yep.
my power is to, in the moment, without knowing why it's true, knowing that it's true, that this happened for a reason, and at some point it's going to make sense.
be
What can I do
comfortable in
with
the
it now?
unknown. Yeah, yeah. And it's like when while it's happening, it feels so overwhelming, right? And it's like so like confusing. You don't know what to make of it, right? But just give it some time, and then like you look back on it, and it makes perfect sense why it
Mhm,
had to be that way.
mhm.
It's like always like that, you know. In the moment, you could be confused. You don't really know, you know. But
Yeah.
like looking back on it, you know. And then just one more thing I wanted to add about the senses is that you know, we have our five senses, you know, that, you know, scientists would say like that's where we get all our information from, right? But the yogis, they have known for thousands of years that there's another place that information comes to us
The
from.
sixth sense, is that what you're
The
talking about?
well, it's also called HSP, higher sensory perception.
Hmm.
So
Is
apparently
that
each one
like
of our
intuition? I've never heard that
yeah,
terminology.
intuition. It's actually we have other senses. Like Huberman talks about introspection, right? Or what is it called, right? Where that's like another technically it's a sense to be able to look inside your body, right? To be aware of what's going on in your body. Like
Hmm.
there's
Hmm.
no outside
Hmm.
information coming in.
Hmm.
And just in general, like apparently, I mean, I would imagine every sense is tied to one of the chakras, right? And apparently we have 12 chakras. That's what's coming out now, this information.
Right, right.
And so there's senses that we have, like I guess you could call them psychic and things that are just they're not developed yet. You know, we haven't like used them enough, right? It's like a muscle, right?
Hmm.
Clairvoyance, all this stuff, you know, like
Like
science knows
anything that
about it.
it takes practice, right? You know, like I
Yeah.
didn't become a professional baseball player because I was born with it. I became because I worked really, really hard at it. You know
Dude,
what I
I
mean? Like
remember in
I practiced,
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
know?
Me and my friend in middle school, we were so obsessed with like, you know, we watch anime and it's like we were so obsessed with like moving things with our mind and stuff like that, right? I'm seeing so many people doing this now, like those videos, right? Dude, it's nuts, bro. And it's like, yeah, we you know, we would there's an experiment we found on like AOL.com, right, where you take a jar and like you put like a little thread with a needle inside the jar, so there's no you know wind or anything doing it,
Oh,
and
and
then
you
you would
get it to
just
start.
and exactly he would sit
I've
we
seen
would sit
this.
there all night like trying to make it move and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
I've seen
right?
this. Yeah.
Or like in the Matrix when you know that really famous scene with the spoon, right? And he's like,
Hmm.
realize there's no spoon. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
there's no spoon, right? I was like, whoa. I don't know. There's clues there. There's clues there, and
for
that's
sure.
stuff I've always been interested in. All that, like,
Well, and
go
these
ahead.
are things that the ancient cultures. One of the reasons why, you know, I've always kind of been drawn to these Eastern cultures. You know, these
Mm,
older, traditional, wise. You know, and maybe not knowing why exactly that I was being drawn to, but me wanting to understand the existence of everything or the reason for everything
yes.
or whatever, right? Wanting to understand things in general,
Yeah.
and being in the search of the nature of this
That is
thing that I'm
life to
trying
me.
to
That is
understand, right?
life, right? That
But
is life.
these people are raised
Yeah. Right.
to be learning these things as they're growing up, right? Like, okay, so my brother Aaron Moon, who he and I are putting together this offer right now that's like a kind of like accountability men's group mixed with retreats and like all these other things like body, mind, and soul
Oh yeah, tell me about
health,
that.
right?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
he's talking the other day about he's like he has a number of different teachers um in the Vedic
Traditions. Vedic.
Vedic philosophies and
Mm,
knowledge, right?
yes. The
So
great books.
he's got a number of different teachers and stuff like that. I actually
Dude,
he had
I'm like
he
after
had
reading this book. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
a
mean,
temple
that's
in San Diego that he took me to. Oh, that's from India right there. I purchased that out of the temple from his teacher
Ganesh.
because I was like, yeah, Ganesh is so dope. But
The
he's taught,
remover of obstacles. I love that book.
yes, bro, which I
Yeah,
got a lot of obstacles. So,
yeah.
but he was talking to me the other day as we're kind of talking about just our relationships with women and stuff like that, and just the nature of being a man and navigating spaces. He's like, well, dude, back in the day, like arranged marriages get like a really bad rap But like back in the day, like this is literally kind of like a scientific thing that they're doing. If you want to call it scientific, you would
Yeah.
pair together when you're in your teens
Yeah.
with someone from a neighboring tribe or whatever who you're going to clash with, okay?
Ooh.
Who is
Okay.
not a perfect match. And you
Interesting.
and you guys do your thing for a couple years because in the conflict is where you learn the lessons, right? When
Yes.
things are
Makes so much
smooth,
sense. Yeah.
when things are smooth, like a sailor doesn't become a good sailor on smooth seas.
Yeah.
You sharpen the sword when things are
Of
tumultuous, when
course.
they're rough, right? So when you fail and when things are hard, that's when you're learning the lessons, right? And so you
Exactly.
pair with somebody who's not going to be a good match. It's going to be conflict. It's going to be difficult, and you learn the lessons for however long. And then after that, okay, now you guys are done. Now through astrology, right? And the literal science of astrology and the different energies that are present, and kind of how I don't know if you know this, but in human design, you can put two different archetypes together and you can see how their charts match.
You could do that in astrology too. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So,
yeah.
well, I mean, human design's based on astrology, right?
Oh,
So,
I'm not. I
but
don't know human design that well, so please, like,
yeah,
yeah, tell us. Yeah.
Yeah, so you do that and you put the two charts together and it shows where you would be good here because look, you're connecting here, or like you're connecting here and like you don't connect at all here. You may have troubles with this or you may have troubles with that or
Yeah.
whatever. Like in using that, they then arrange a marriage with somebody who is the right fit for you
Oh,
based
I
on
see. I see.
ancient knowledge and traditions
Yeah.
of astrology that like for instance Nostradamus, I don't Nostradamus is, right?
Of course. Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Nostradamus used the reason that he made the predictions that he made was using astrology.
Mm-hmm.
He used astrology to make these predictions not only in different individuals' lives, but as society as a whole, because the energies that are present in the universe really do create highly probable results that can be predicted. Now, they're not all right because at the end of the day, we all have free choice and there's a collective consciousness as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
those things are highly predictable because of the energies that are present in astrology and how all of these, I mean, the moon moves the tides,
Of
bro. Is
course.
it so crazy to think
But
that
it's
the
a,
moon
but
doesn't affect the 75% of water that we're made up of, right?
and it's mathematical, right? There's
Yes,
cycles. They repeat, so it's like it's
yes,
constant. Like you can predict
yes,
these cycles, right? There's
yes,
little cycles in the big cycles, and then the bigger cycles. So it's like
yes.
clockwork. It's a big clock. It's funny. There's 12
Well,
signs,
and our
right?
calendar used to be based on that. Well, there's
No, no,
13.
well, no, no, there's certain no, but like you look at the face of a clock, right? There's 12 numbers, right?
Mhm.
And the 13th sign, I think that was a NASA thing, man. I'm not so sure about the 13th sign or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. That's I'm not. I don't know. Maybe I'm
So,
wrong.
what is the oh God, it's it the have you heard about the world clock? The Geneva like world clock or whatever?
Yeah, the atomic clock or something like
No,
that, or
no, I don't think it's called the atomic clock. What's the name for it? I forgot about this, but I remember looking into it and like I tripped out on it, bro.
yeah,
Like what is well like our calendar used to be there used to be 13 months, like Sunday was the first and or whatever, right? And everything was really predictable and went
oh
a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
cycle. And the first of the year, the new year was the spring equinox,
Right,
right? Not there's no new year in the dead of winter, bro. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, get the fuck
Do
out of
you
here.
think they like did that on purpose? You think they like tried to
100%.
kind of
Yeah,
like
because
make us off balance,
they're
right?
disconnecting us
Yeah.
from our connectivity to nature.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah.
nature is our baseline of who we are, right? We if we're made up of all of the same stuff that nature is made up of, we have more in common with the tree than we realize, bro.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
Right?
just like in astrology, where the astrology system that most people use in the West, right, is apparently not correct. Like we're apparently like a few signs behind or whatever, right? Vedic astrology, sidereal astrology is actually like more correct.
Mm.
But this has been such a question for me because I can't figure it out, right? Where if everyone thinks I'm a Virgo, but I'm actually a Leo, it turns out, right? Like it's kind of like they're so different, right? So, anyways, there's that. Then there's also like the thing that they did with music, right? Which is like in the 1940s or something, because the natural A resonates at 432 hertz, right? But the tuning now is 440. So it's like a little off. like the popular music, so to speak, you know. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
another
right.
thing.
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah,
heard of
well
that?
that 432 is a harmonious frequency that
With
it's
nature.
actually
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to tune my guitar to that now, you know. So, but then it's like it doesn't have as much of an impact because it doesn't like itch that like rock and roll thing, you know, where it has to be a little like, for lack of a better word, abrasive a little bit, right? Like the kind of music I used to listen to and stuff like that. Like rock and roll has to like hit you on that like a visceral level, you know. So, anyways,
One thing that when you were
yeah,
prefacing kind of like what you wanted to talk about, I wanted to bring this up and I wanted to ask you about this because I find
okay,
this super interesting.
yeah,
Um, so you know of the idea of like parallel realities.
yes, yeah.
Okay. And have you heard of people talking about this idea of potentially jumping timelines?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. What do you think about that? Have you experienced anything along those lines at all?
I mean, you know, in a general sense, I feel like it's happening every moment, like every second,
Yeah.
because we're constantly.
You could maybe tie in the Mandela effect into this idea too, right? Or is that them fucking with us, right?
You could tie that in, yeah. Why not?
You
Okay.
know? So the reason why I bring this up is because so in my previous relationship, and I don't know if this is me having a bad memory
Okay.
or right because
Yeah.
that's a thing.
Yeah.
And we also know that like when we see something, our brain is putting together the pieces and using what it already knows as a point of reference to create what it is that you're actually seeing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So because we're not actually seeing those things, it's like this mirror, and then our brain like puts together like based on previous knowledge and perceptions of like what we're actually seeing, right? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all the time, oh, I said this or like I did this, and I'm like,
Right.
absolutely not. Like 100% this is what happened. And she's like,
Oh,
no, 100% this is what happened. And I'm like, nah, you were in the other timeline. I was in this timeline. And we're joking about it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But the
Yeah.
idea being that you may recall that and that happening, but that happened in the reality that we're not currently in. Or is it happening in the reality, is what I'm perceiving and remembering happening in a reality that I'm not currently in?
I'll be
Okay.
straight up with you, man. It doesn't matter. That doesn't
I,
matter. What
I
matters is
agree that it
alignment.
doesn't matter. I just think that it's such an interesting anomaly, and I'm wondering
Oh
if
yeah,
you've
yeah,
had
yeah.
this
No, no, no.
experience,
I'm
right?
saying like in terms of love. I mean, like if you love someone, you're gonna be in the same timeline. You're gonna want to be in the same timeline. You're gonna align with them. That's love. That's what I had to tell you, man. I'm sorry I had to tell you that. Like
Yeah, my
if
perception on what love is
yeah.
on the backside of that relationship has completely changed from what I thought it was in the relationship, let me tell you.
But it also maybe affected how you think of love now.
Oh,
Maybe it's affecting
100% it
that
has.
now, right?
100% it has. Yeah, absolutely,
So
bro.
be careful, you know what I mean? I would just say like be careful because a lot of times, especially with something that means a lot to us, like we tend to repeat those, we tend to go back to that situation to try to fix it almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I have that experience.
But
Yeah.
maybe there's nothing to fix.
Yeah, I'm not in a place where I think that there's anything that I need to fix now
Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
it.
Okay. Yeah. No,
My
no, I
perception
understand.
has completely changed, and I've gone to a therapist who's helped me change that
Perfect. No,
perspective and like
bro.
figured out a lot,
Let
bro.
me, yeah, dude, when I was single for like a decade almost. Like I was single for like 10 years, you know what I mean? So I'm just saying like remember the novelty of every moment, the novelty of every person. Don't forget that, you know, like yeah, you might start to like recreate those patterns and you got to catch yourself and you got to just
100%.
refresh
Yeah,
your browser, you know what I mean? Like
yeah, oh yeah,
constantly, right?
yeah, yeah.
I don't know if I don't know if like that's what you were asking me or what, but it is crazy how our memories like we're attached to them, right? Right? We're attached to like our sense, like it gives us identity of who we are, right?
100%. Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, yeah,
Is that crazy? Like,
yeah, yeah,
so it's important that we, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
remember that every moment is a whole new opportunity to do to jump in any timeline. Like, and I would even venture further and say, like, don't choose any timelines. Stay in the place where all the timelines are available to you, right?
Mhm.
That's
Yes.
where you want to be, right? I would imagine.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, what I kind of meant and like why I brought that up is because you were like, the nature of reality and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and different things. And so here's like a more of a specific example. So
Okay.
I was up north recently with my sister and we were visiting her husband's family up there. And in my head, I picture my sister and my niece walking away and going down the road and going back over to grandma's house.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That did not happen. My niece was never with my sister. My
Oh my
sister was
God.
standing next to me. Okay. And she walked away and went down the road. Okay. And my niece was never with her. Not when we were standing around the fire there, not when any of that went on. She was inside watching a movie with all the rest of the kids. And I asked my sister, like, oh, didn't Ellie go with you? She's like, no. And I'm like, and I'm recalling in my head the vision that I have of my sister and my niece walking. I still see it right now in my head, walking that way and going
Oh
up and
yeah.
down the road.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's what I mean. Whereas like I'm not
That's
necessarily
happening.
choosing one over the other, or I'm not set on this is the way it was. You know what I mean? It was like it was
Hmm.
a joke that we would use, like, oh, you
Mm.
must be recalling the other timeline. And I just told my sister, I'm like, I viscerally am picturing you and Ellie walking together, and you're telling me that that did not happen, and she was never with you. And she's like, nope. And I'm like, whoa,
That's
dude.
nuts. That's
That's what I
nuts.
mean by like jumping timelines, where like I can literally visually picture this specific thing happening, or you saying this specific thing to me, or me saying this specific thing to you, and you're
Oh yeah.
saying, no, that's not how I recall it all. And both of us being like, nah,
I
bro,
love
I
it.
remember, like,
I love it. Yeah. No, I mean, there's like your personal world. Like this is why I think art is so important. It's like so especially for, these new like where humanity is headed. Because in that space of art, you can create your own reality. It doesn't have to do anything with like the consensus reality, right? But
yeah.
when you're in a group of people, you all have to agree, right? You have to come to an agreement of what you're doing there, like what the reality is for that group of people, right? So even
Mm.
though you might have like I have that all the time, right? You imagine things and then it's like you got to come back to consensual reality, right? Like the
Mhm.
reality that we're all in this like together and I'm
Mhm.
just one person, right?
Mhm.
But it's like that's why it's weird. You can do both and especially like I think that if you do art, it's gonna give you a better sense of like what is your world versus what is like, the status quo,
Mhm.
so to speak. Like you get a
Well,
better
and
sense for it.
and doing any type of art, like the beauty in that is going back to something that we talked about in the beginning of the conversation as well, is that like you can't create art without being hyper present and being in this moment right here. You know what I mean? Like there's the original and uniqueness comes out in the art that you're doing by being hyper present, right? And like even
Yep.
you're channeling almost in a sense, right? You're channeling from your higher self. Okay. And like I've been saying for a number of years here, as I've gained kind of a better understanding of like art and how I perceive or view art, that like movement is my art,
Mm.
like, which is why like there have been moments in sports where I saw and knew what was going to happen before it happened. Like I've been at the plate before and I'm like,
Yep.
I'm not getting out right now. I
There you
know
go.
that I'm not getting out right now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I
Yes.
don't know if that's me channeling
Prophesizing.
a future moment or that's me being so hyper present in this reality that I
That you're
create exactly that thing that I want.
Yeah.
But there have been,
Yeah, yeah.
and I feel like the difference between a professional athlete or just an athlete in general
Hmm.
and a high performing athlete is that flow state that I can selectively choose and say I was in it these numbers. Like, bro, I remember in high school I scored 54 points in a basketball game.
Okay.
Okay. I
That's
missed
pretty tight.
one shot the whole game. Like 54 points is a lot of fucking points in a basketball game where they're shorter quarters, right? They're not like professional games. Okay. I missed one shot the whole game. I've never, ever been in that state in a basketball game ever before in my entire life. That is the state that that the Steph Currys of the world are tapping into when they're on the court. I think a majority of the time, right? More than 50% of the time, they're in that state where I
Mm-hmm.
can literally select probably on both hands
Mm-hmm.
the times when I've been in those states, at least for an extended period of time. Now, there's moments where I've done an act that was like, holy shit, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
there's a number of times where like I quieted a crowd
But
because
like you weren't
everyone's just like,
trying to, right? Like you weren't trying
no, I
to,
was just in the
right?
flow state of just woo,
Exactly.
woo,
Yep.
woo, you know what I mean? And then afterwards, you're like, you almost step back and go, and I can imagine, like, for
Yes.
somebody who's creating music or a beautiful
Yes.
work of art on a canvas or something,
Very
like,
similar. Yeah.
when they channel that flow state and they create that art, afterwards, they step back and go, whoa,
Yep.
dude, what state of reality or state of consciousness did I just tap into to do
Yeah. Yeah.
that? Because I want to continue doing that to continue
Yeah.
creating more things like this, right?
Right, right. And then it becomes like, you do like one, like you have that one game, I guess you could say, right? That's like you were super good at it, right? And then it's like it doesn't happen for a while after, right? No matter how hard you try, like you can't, like it's like something is preventing you because of your expectation of you're going to be so good at it, right?
The issue is that you're trying now instead of
Yes.
just
Just no mind,
being
right?
and
No
just
mind.
allowing it to
Yes.
be. But like,
Totally.
how do you access that state of hyper presence? So I've been, I was saying earlier that I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan. So there's this Last
Yep.
Dance documentary that they did about their final season and all of that stuff. And one of the things that somebody says about Michael Jordan in that documentary is that Michael Jordan is the only person I've ever known who could turn it on and off whenever he wanted, and he never turned it off. Right? Like he is in like his gift was he is in this state of being hyper present
Mm.
at all times. He's always in the moment. And that's the
Mm.
reason why he was able to be the greatest basketball player who's ever walked the earth, is because he was always able to be in that hyper present state, in that flow state, right?
It reminds me of Zen Buddhism. It's had such a big effect on me throughout my life, where it's like the whole point is to reach a state of no thought. Like just get to that place where like you're not thinking, you're not perceiving, you're just there,
Mhm.
right? Because I feel as though me, like, I mean, I'm sure I speak for a lot of people when I say like, I tend to overthink things. Sometimes it's hard to go to sleep because my mind's just like running from all the
That's
stuff,
why I
right?
smoke weed, bro.
But like with that, yeah, dude, actually, like I stopped like a month ago, so I'm
Fucking
like,
zap, dude.
yeah.
Like otherwise, it's bro. Shut
Right, right, right.
the fuck up, dude.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's like there's some sort of similarity between thinking and doubt, right? Like I feel as though when I'm thinking, I'm questioning, right? I'm doubting.
Mhm, mhm,
I'm doubting that like it's really as good as it is, or I'm doubting that, or like I'm worried about something that might happen in the future, or there's something unresolved from the past. Like I'm doubting the validity of it, and that's when I start thinking, right? The root of
mm,
thought is kind of like doubt, right?
mm,
So I'm just kind of like I'm trying to like piece the points together, like connect the dots a little bit because like getting into that flow state, right?
mhm,
It's the same as that deepest state of meditation, right?
mhm,
Because they meditation isn't just sitting there with your eyes closed, right?
mhm,
Meditation could be anything, like
mhm. Well,
like
anybody can sit there with their eyes closed, but are they meditating? Because the wheels turn
yeah, exactly. And so
Constantly, right?
and sometimes you're driving for hours, right? And like the hours just go by like that. Like, and that's more meditation than you know, you sitting with your eyes closed thinking about stuff, you know.
Mhm.
So it's funny because I'm almost scared to give that part up about myself, like the thought, because I've just like I've invested so much into that. Like it's like kind of like my home. It's like where I
It's your
come back
identity,
to.
bro. That's how your ego attaches to that to
Yeah,
know
yeah,
know
yeah,
what
yeah,
existence is and what it can rely on. I was just
yeah,
having this conversation with Aaron where he was expressing some doubts about this, that, and the other thing, and I'm like, that's your fucking ego, dude. It's
right.
because your ego knows this version of you, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's
Trying to protect
predictable.
you.
Even if
Yeah,
even if that's not the best version of you, right? That version of you is predictable, and you're trying to step into this new version of you, which is your highest self, but your ego doesn't know that version of you. So it's going to try and stop you
right.
from going into that because to your ego, that's unsafe. That's uncharted territory. We don't want to do that, you know?
Yeah, and it starts just poisoning your whole being almost, right? It's just it's like yeah, I know I got to go do that thing. I know it's like going to be good for me. It's going to help me grow. Like, you know, I know I'm going to go, I don't know, make money or something, but something like stops me from doing it, and I don't know what it is, like, you know. So, I mean, I guess it's just like go with the flow, right? Like every moment, um, what's it called? It's not really us, right? It's not really like we didn't create this world, right? Like it's like God did, right? We have to just give ourselves up to the light and
Mhm,
just like just enjoy the ride, I guess. No, that's the thing. I want to catch the moment, right? As an artist, I want to capture it. I want to take that
mhm,
picture, you know
mhm,
what I mean? I want to remember it
mhm.
somehow. I want to
I'm,
have an
I'm, re- I'm really
artifact.
sentimental like that too, bro. Yep.
You know what I mean? I want to have something that I can hold later and remember that I was here at this moment, you know?
Mhm.
And that's what like thinking helps me to kind of be in a weird way present all the time, right? So it's like so I can't figure, it's like this puzzle that's never going to be solved, you know what I mean?
Well, is it the thinking that allows you to be present, or is it contemplation that allows you to be present? Because I think those are two different things.
No, you're right. You're right. Thinking is a little more automatic, right? It's a little more mechanical, right? It's not so intentional.
Contemplation is like this focused intent of like what is in front of me right now,
Yeah.
right? And contemplating the different outcomes or the meaning or something beyond what is just there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we all need to sit and contemplate more.
That's true. That's very true.
Like
Yeah, yep. There's
less
so much.
thinking, more contemplation, you know?
Hmm. I feel like a lot of people have like so much baggage, you know what I mean, that they're carrying, and it's like you gotta do the laundry sometime. You gotta take out the
Mhm,
garbage, right?
mhm,
And be reborn. Like the Buddha said, like every morning I'm born, and at night I die, right?
mhm.
It's like
Yeah.
every day is a whole life. Every
Mhm,
hour is a whole existence. Like every
mhm,
second, right? It's like a whole
mhm.
world that's
Yeah.
happening around us.
Well, I think that, that we need to repattern, like at least for
Mm,
me, I know that the ego likes things to be predictable and likes to follow a path where it knows what the outcome is,
yeah, yeah.
even if it's detrimental to you, right? So like that's one of the things that I spoke about earlier and I didn't get into. It's one of the things that like Aaron Moon and I are putting together is we're putting together this accountability group where men are able to come, they're able to be vulnerable, they're able to count on one another. There's a lot of practices, including breath work and meditation, body, mind, spirit, soul. You know what I mean? Like we're going to tackle all of the things. Like what issues do you have? Bring them to the table. Let's talk about them. Let's get to the root of it. How do we
Mm,
transmute that, and how do we repattern? But like also, are you nourishing your body properly? Are you getting sunlight? Are you grounding to the earth? Are you gathering the electrons? We're electron gathering beings, right? Are you gathering the electrons for the earth so your physical body can be healthy? Are you expressing what needs to be expressed? Are you doing something artistic or unique to you that's just for you that feeds your soul? And then from all of that and through the accountability group, we get to hold people through that. Like we have access to some indigenous people in Borneo that are never accessed to before, where there's rites of passages and practices that you learn from these ancient elders and wisdom. And what we're doing with that is that a lot of the proceeds for the cost of those things go to those tribes. So the hundreds of people that don't have a lot of abundance, you know what I mean? We start bringing abundance to them and exchanging with them some of these traditions that they're giving
So,
to us to help us
yes,
enrich our lives.
tell me more about that. Yeah. So it's an island or like, or
Borneo is the second largest island, I believe.
where's it located?
It's like Southeast Asia.
Wow, Southeast Asia, so like by Bali and stuff, or like
Exactly.
by
Yep. Yep.
Thailand?
Yep. Yeah.
Really?
Yep. Yeah.
Dude, that's so sick,
Yeah. So
man. That's
Aaron lived in
awesome.
Bali for like 2 years out there. And like, he's been very tied into these Vedic teachers and traditions and stuff like that. And he's probably spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on personal development
Oh my
into
gosh, yeah.
a lot of
Sounds
these
so cool.
ancient ways and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And he's connected to some people who are connected to these indigenous tribes and stuff like that. And I mean, that's just one of the offerings, right? There's another one that's like a stem cell retreat in Colombia where we have a chance to like heal the physical body, or like there's one that's stateside, that's domestic, that we're planning, that not as expensive to travel to, where we're going to get together and we're going to all fast for 3 or 4 days together, and we're going to kind of delete the external things and do like a vision quest. We're going to sit, and like one of the things that I've learned from Bearheart is like learning from nature, like sit riverside with no food or anything in your system, and like what can you learn from the river from observing it? What can you learn from the forest from observing the forest? What can you learn from the ocean? What can you learn from the ground? Like
Hmm.
what can you learn from the anthill and what they're doing here, or from the bees, or from the bug that comes through, or from the
Okay.
fox or the squirrel, or
Yeah.
like we're not so disconnected from nature as we think we are. The fact that we live in these artificial structures with these rubber soles on our feet, and we eat shit food that mixed with the sun causes cancer. Like,
Hmm.
fuck out of here with all of that. Like, we need to get back to what our true nature is. It's barefoot walking on the earth. It's being in the sun. It's sitting around the fire with people that we can trust. Like, this is something that we used to do. We didn't used to have light. We'd
Yeah.
prepare our meal around the fire and sit with our family, and we would talk about our day at the end of the day. And this is how we would offload the experiences that we're having, rather than internalizing the trauma because you don't have a safe space to share these things with. Every day we used
Yeah.
to have a little
Yeah. I
ceremony
know.
around a meal, and
You're
we'd say
right.
a prayer, and we'd be grateful
We need to get
for
back to that. Yeah.
whatever it was, that whatever animal had to give their life so that we could continue living.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like we weren't just breeding artificial animals just to let them live for 3 to 6 months to murder them and kill them.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
Yeah, for
it's
sure. No.
awful. It's
No,
fucking
that's
awful.
amazing. Sounds really good. Yeah, it's like I was doing a bonfire not too long ago, and I was just watching it. It was just so magical. Like I just
Bro.
love that experience so much, and
Yeah.
I got so much insight just like came into me. Like I realized like this is the original TV, right?
Like that in the
Right.
ocean, bro. I could sit and watch the ocean. I could sit and watch
Right.
a body of
Yeah.
water or the fire.
Beautiful.
So fire is
Yeah.
a really, really big medicine for me. And like as a
Same.
Leo and also as a Pitta in Ayurveda,
Uh-huh.
like I'm very close with
By the way,
fire.
you might be a Cancer actually, but anyways, okay.
Right, 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 right. Um, oh yeah, and that's the other thing. So the 13th astrological sign is Ophiuchus.
Right, right.
Okay, and that's
Sure.
the one that's been right. That's the one, or Opie. I don't know how you
I've been
exactly
hearing
say
about
it.
this since 2012, man. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
But so I used to do the discovery calls for people who are interested in doing these retreats with us.
Hmm.
When I was working very closely with Bearheart previously, and people are always asking, like, is medicine going to be served? Like everyone wants to like do ayahuasca or like do mushrooms, which like
Right.
just as like a slight correction there, like we don't do anything. These are these are intelligent entities. Okay, we're
Mm,
merging energies with them. Like I
aligning.
sit with ayahuasca. right? I sit with mushrooms, you know, and I have a specific intention going into it, and I communicate with that medicine before I sit with it. I'm not doing like we don't do things like we did in fucking college, bro. I'm not
Yeah,
doing
let's
drugs,
party.
right? Yeah. You know, and what I would ask
Gravity
people when they
bump.
ask me that is whether medicine is served or not, the
Hmm.
most potent medicine every single time is the fire.
The fire.
Every single time, the most potent medicine is getting around the fire
I miss
and
it.
being honest and being vulnerable
Yeah.
and just allowing the commune that happens
Yeah, everyone
around the
gathers.
fire
Everyone's there. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
just change you. And that's the transformation. Maybe there's some inherent wisdom or lessons or perceptions that can be changed in a really beautiful way with the integration of plant medicine, but you still need to bring what you learned in that altered state back to the fire where you
Hmm.
can then talk about it, you can bounce it off of us, and you can
Hmm.
begin your integration process. Because so many people feel changed from plant medicine and then they go back to their lives and they fall into the same patterns because the integration is not there. So the integration circle is by far the most important thing of any plant medicine journey. Like you can I know somebody who has drank ayahuasca more times than anybody that I've ever met. Okay. Like so many times, I don't even know if he knows
Okay.
how many times he's sat with ayahuasca. And in knowing this person very closely and personally, until I heard him say this one thing, I was amazed at how many things he was still struggling with. Because I felt like if I had sat with ayahuasca in the way that at least I've sat with ayahuasca 100 times, that I should be this freaking enlightened monk that like transforms into a spirit body,
Right.
right? Which that's a crazy ass thing. You know about that? Monks who have
Well,
transformed into spirit bodies, there have been like over 100,000 documented cases of
but that's I was kind of touching in on that from this book that it's saying, his like great guru or whatever, he just like appeared to them, right? And he was like miles away and he just like appeared in the flesh, right? Like, is that kind of what you're talking about? Or
No, so these documented cases of monks turning into spirit bodies is like what happens is that I basically go into a cave or somewhere like that, and I go into a deep meditative state,
yeah,
and my body slowly shrinks and shrivels into like this mummified version of
like
me
Voldemort.
that's hardly there. But I still exist as this shriveled up entity version of myself. My consciousness is mostly in the spirit realm doing other things, not
Okay.
here, right? Like
Well, yeah, yeah,
it's a
yeah, yeah.
crazy.
Okay,
It
sure.
there's
Yeah.
documented hundreds of thousands
Right.
of document. Like it's fucking insane, bro. Like I'm like
It's
really, you
nuts.
know. And I
It's
looked into it. I'm
nuts.
like, oh, this is crazy.
Yeah, man. I
Um,
actually I found something that like explains all of this stuff. It's called Cathara. Like I want to get into it in this podcast eventually.
mm,
Basically about the the hologram, right? The 12 dimensional hologram that we live in, and it's
mhm.
like we're all connected. Like
Is it 12 or 13?
there's 12 dimensions, but there's
I heard there might be 13.
no, there's 15. There's actually
Uh,
15.
I was gonna say I've heard 13, 14, 15. Like there's like
No,
the
but
numbers like
really,
12, like hard line at 12, but then maybe there's like this 13, 14, or 15 thing going on here. Like
no, it's actually 28. But really, it's 5026.
the square root of
No, no, no. Whatever. No, I know. It technically goes on forever or whatever, but like in this time matrix, right? We're in the matrix. A matrix is like a garden, okay? You plant a seed and it grows, right? So in this time matrix, okay? There's 12 dimensions. Um there's four harmonic universes of 3 dimensions, okay? So the physical is the first three. That's your like physical body, right? That's the core. Then
Mhm,
after that is your soul, which is the
mhm,
next three. Then
mhm,
there's your oversoul. It has even
mhm,
three there. And then there's your
mhm,
avatar Christos self, which is the 11, 12, wait, 10, 11, 12.
mhm.
So the point is that it's all happening simultaneously. It's all happening right now. And I guess we've been disconnected from our soul, Like there's been this genetic thing that put into us. Like we were originally angelic beings. Humanity was
Right.
an angelic race originally.
Do you
Un
buy into the idea that the human race is an experiment from some advanced race?
it's not that it's an experiment per se, but it was like humanity was created to be sort of like guardians of the universe, sort of like the Earth. Like I heard this one theory that the Earth was originally
Guardians
supposed to
of the
be.
universe while we destroy the planet that we're living on?
But again, this is the corruption that like we need to get rid of, right? So we need to get back to our original alignment of what we're supposed to be. But I mean, my point is that like, okay, I heard a theory that like Earth was supposed to originally be a library, basically a place where anyone could come from all over the universe. They could come here to heal and to reconnect and to learn about whatever it is. It's like a school, right?
How do
That's what
we
it was
know that that's
originally.
not going on beyond the ice wall in Antarctica right now?
Oh, you want to talk about the flat Earth, bro?
No, I'm not necessarily talking about the flat
Okay,
Earth. Have you
okay.
seen the ancient maps of all the beings and lands beyond Antarctica?
Yeah.
So that's a trip.
Yeah, I
Like,
just posted
what's up
something
with
about
the
it.
Antarctica Treaty, bro? Why can't we go to Antarctica?
I don't know. What do you think?
So, okay, here's my I've gone down so many rabbit holes in my life, right? In my 20s, I was just like down all these freaking rabbit holes that are
Same.
probably
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
considered conspiracy theories. But
Hmm.
in that, I've come to some of my own conclusions that like intuitively, like within me kind of feel right, and I
Yes, yeah,
trust that more than
that's my compass, bro.
all
Yeah,
this nonsense,
exactly.
right?
Yep.
Right, right. So my thought with it is like, okay, for instance, I don't necessarily think that we live on a flat Earth, and I also, like you said earlier, I don't think it matters, right? I don't think it matters
Right.
whether it's a flat Earth or whether it's a circle, okay? But
Okay.
this is my thinking with it.
Okay. Okay.
So if you took this, okay, and you cut the top off of it, okay,
Mm,
let's cut the
mm-hmm.
top off of it. I think that's basically the area that we're living in. The North Pole's up top here. The Antarctic ice wall is here,
Oh, I
okay?
see. Okay.
And there's a whole bunch of other shit on this ball that we're on, okay,
Okay.
as we're all spinning around and it's doing all this crazy stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I think because I've looked into the flat earth thing. Again, I don't necessarily think that the earth is flat, but I'm really good
Let's
with numbers and with math.
let's
And
entertain the idea, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there are some things that don't match.
Okay.
Okay. If the curvature of the earth is supposed to be this,
Yeah.
then there's certain places where, for instance, like I could be standing across the river looking at the Statue of Liberty, and if the mathematics are correct, I shouldn't be able to see the base of the Statue of Liberty, but I can.
Hmm.
Okay. And the other thing is, I have believed for a very long time that if you follow the money, you start to find the answers.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And in that, if you look, this is another one of the flat earth arguments. If you look at the flight paths of some of the airplanes with our traditional globe model, they do not make any fucking sense whatsoever. And if you also look at many different, there's many instances of planes having to do emergency landings. They're flying from this place to this place, and they land in the globe model way the fuck over here in the globe model, right?
Right.
But if you take
Hmm.
the flat earth model, which also of note, it's also the UN model of the earth. The flat earth model is also the UN's logo of how the continents
Yeah.
are
It's
situated,
fucked up, bro.
right?
It's right there.
If you take that and then look at those flight paths and
Uh-huh.
look at the emergency landings, it makes a lot of sense. And when
Oh,
I'm talking about following the money, the airlines are not just going to burn extra fuel and throw away money or fly hours away in an emergency landing.
okay.
It
Okay.
doesn't make any sense, bro.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
But why would they do that? What's the impetus there?
Well, it goes
Why would
it
they
goes back
convince us that we're on the sphere when we're really on like, on a disc? You know what I mean?
it goes back to, well, I don't necessarily think
Uh,
it's a sphere. I think
no,
it's
no,
the
but
top
let's.
of
I'm,
like,
I'm
right,
saying if we
right,
go down that road, right? If we're just entertaining the idea
yeah,
just for fun, right?
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
they convinced
for
us
the
of a
same
bunch of
reason that
things that aren't
they've
true.
skewed astrology for us, right? For the same reason
They've
that they've
lied about a lot of stuff already, right?
to
So
take
is
us
it
away from the nature of what our power is and the fact that we are connected to nature and we derive our power from our existence in nature and how we relate to nature.
and
Now the
then
stars control
okay.
all these things and there's predictable patterns and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This all the reason why we got on this in the first place is it goes
Okay.
back to you were saying that Earth was supposed to be a place where everyone from the universe could come to heal. And I said, what's to say that's not happening already, right? What's to
Right.
say that beyond the ice wall,
Well,
let's say that there's the ice wall, that there's all this land beyond the ice wall. What's to say that other races aren't coming here to heal and experiencing those things, just not in our visual perceptive reality?
yeah,
What's to
yeah, yeah.
say? You know,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
like they I mean, I heard that, Mount Shasta, right? There's apparently like an underground Lemurian city there or something. Like I don't know if it's underground, or maybe you have to be on a different wavelength to see it or something
so
like that.
Bashar talked about this,
Yeah.
and Bashar said, in our perceptive timeline of what's going on, the Lemurians do not currently live inside of Mount Shasta. In
Hmm.
our linear perception of a timeline, that was a different time, if you will. Bashar said that. I'm not saying
Yeah, yeah,
one
yeah.
way or the other. You know
Okay,
what I mean?
okay. Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I'm at this
I
point in my
get it.
life where I've
Yeah.
gone down so many rabbit holes, and I look at it as like, okay, whatever with a lot of this stuff. What can I do to live my best life and to exist in a way that feels good for me? You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Like
a
so,
lot of
so
those things are like not arguing over flat or round earth,
no,
but
no,
just
I get it.
knowing
I get it.
that they are
But
deceiving me for some reason. You know what I mean? Like,
and it's up to me to find the truth,
well, and
right?
let's not necessarily argue about why they're deceiving us, you know? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's
Let's just
clear that
get to
they're
what
trying
it
to
is.
take the power away from the
Well,
individual and the power
okay.
away from the collective.
And then
So,
there's this like, I might have this theory, right? You might have that theory. That guy over there might have a different theory, right?
mhm,
But it's like we got to reach a consensus, right, of our shared reality here,
I mean,
right?
we
We have
don't
to.
have to.
No, we don't have to. I guess we could be in different tribes, right, or something like
We
that,
could be
right?
Democrats and Republicans
Yeah,
for the rest of our lives, bro, even though all those motherfuckers are partying together behind closed doors
right.
and they got
So,
us pitted against one
so,
another.
so
It's the
acco-
classic divide and conquer, bro.
according to Cathara and Chelantic sciences,
Okay,
okay,
okay. Okay.
there's two other Earths at the same time. There's a
Okay.
parallel Earth, and then
Dolores
there's like
Cannon talked
the
about this.
shadow Earth too, or something like that,
Yeah.
right?
Do you know what Dolores Cannon is?
Yes, of course I
She
do. Yeah,
talks
yeah,
about
yeah.
this.
Yeah, she's on that
Yeah.
wavelength too, right? Where
Mhm.
it's like, and apparently, like you're saying, it's a different time that it's gonna be there. Um, there's apparently it has to do with the dimensions of like
Mhm.
we're experiencing this reality right now because
Mhm.
we're at this time. Man, I'm trying to figure it out. I don't. But in the future, it's gonna be different. Like, oh man, I'm trying to figure
So
it out.
the idea is that I think this is what you're talking about,
Okay.
is that there's a separation of realities and a separation of Earths, right? And like some of us are moving into the fifth dimension Earth, and other people are going to stay back in the third dimensional
The
Earth.
fifth dimension Earth is called Tara, by the way. Yep.
And the way that that occurs is that our perception of reality is just going to change, and theirs is not. Right?
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
say our, assuming that we're moving
Okay.
to the fifth dimensional
Yeah.
planet, and
I'm glad you brought
and
this up.
and they or the majority of them are staying in the third dimensional planet where they're still worried
Them.
about
Yeah.
Democrat and Republican and
Yeah. Those other
all of
guys.
the
Yeah.
atrocities that are going on, where we're moving into an abundance timeline where we're free to do whatever we want
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
creating our reality, right?
So it's like even though we're standing side by side, right? Like one person will see the world in a completely different way. Like one person will see it. It's like
Yes.
there's so much
Yeah.
abundance. Everything is so beautiful. Look at the birds, right? The person standing next to them is gonna be like, but these streets are all cracked, and look at all these
Yes.
machines, and everything
And
is
through our
terrible.
perception,
Exactly.
that's how we're living on different
Exactly.
Earths.
Yes.
if you
Yes.
will.
Love
That
it.
at
Love it.
least that's the idea, and
No, no, that's great because it gives us the
it
power.
sort of
It gives the
makes
power back to us, right? Because now we
100%, and
choose
that's
our
what we
reality.
want, right? We
Yes,
want to take the power back
we
and
do. We
understand
do.
what can I do for
Yes,
me that isn't argue over this political issue or this thing or that thing, right? Whatever it is.
exactly. And conquer, divide and conquer, right? And all that, right?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
everything's split into two and the parallel self and everything. But again, so I mean, like the point is to align, is to bring your shadow self, right, into alignment with yourself. Like to
Mhm.
basically, that's how you ascend. Like that's apparently humans were not meant to die originally. Here's another lie that we're all living under. Right, we were supposed to ascend. We were supposed to ascend into the higher dimensions.
Well,
There's
dude, in history, do you know how long people lived? Like tens of thousands of years, like would
yeah,
surpass, and there were like four kings in a certain area, which tells you
apparently
something. Well, for instance, like about the Hunza people.
a little bit, maybe no.
Okay, so the Hunza people, they live like I don't know. I don't remember where exactly it is, but it's like the very remote area of the world. And to even get there, you have to hike into it. Okay.
Okay.
And they're, living the way that we were supposed to. They're walking barefoot on the earth, they're in the sun and stuff like that. There's none of that disease and all that crap.
Mm,
They drink this mineral rich water, this water that's like cloudy that comes off of a glacier. Okay. And these people live like 200 years. They're on this planet right now, and they live like to be 200 years old or something like that.
yeah,
And like
yeah,
I think that we were meant to, at the very least, to be living at 200 years old or more. I think that all of the toxins that we're taking in, and also our belief that we are supposed to age as we create our reality with our thoughts, right? This belief that we age through the years
yeah.
and all of these things, right? And that's our conditioning,
Hmm.
like.
I saw Prince talking about it, right? They like asked him like, "How old are you?" He was like, "Oh, like I stopped counting my age like when I was 30, because
Because
you only
as you
have
say
one
your age,
birthday. You
you're
only have one
waiting.
birthday, right?
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean? And then
right.
there's like all these like older people who are so like they look so young and they're so vital, right? Like in their 70s and everything. I just saw a
Mhm.
video of a lady in Jamaica. Apparently she's 146 years old, man. And like they were like how did you like live like so, so old and everything. And she said she just consumes herbs. That's it. Like I don't mean like ganja, but like she has a
Yeah,
herb
yeah,
garden, and she
yeah,
says that every ailment has an herb to it, and women
yeah,
figure
yeah,
it out.
yeah.
And this other guy
What about
also
breatharians?
breatharian. That it seems like
There's
that's
people who
where
say that they
yeah,
live on sunlight and they don't eat anything at all.
yeah. I was vegan. I was vegan for 4 years, and
Me
like
too.
I
Seven
was
years.
fine. Like I had, you know what I mean? Like I had a lot of energy, and I was actually the time I was in California. So,
Yeah.
and then there's this other guy, right? He said he stopped eating meat or any animal products. He hasn't been eating them for 50 years, and he like his skin is like perfect. You know what I mean? And then there's the stories of the people who I don't know, like in some tribe or something, right? And they have like perfect teeth, like they have like everything is
Right,
like
right,
super well sculpted and everything.
right.
Just goes back to this thing where it's like they've been poisoning us on purpose to make money. What the fuck? So the Cathar, it says
Disease
that
is profitable, bro.
well that this has been kind of like a prison planet for a very long time, and like now the chains are finally like
Hmm.
released. Like we're supposed to enter a golden age right now, man. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying that lightly. It's just like
No,
I almost
no.
feel like I know that in my soul. Like I feel like I was born for this. Like
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
here and we're witnessing like the greatest freaking show ever
This is the
made.
most incredible time to be on the planet
For
in the
real, dude.
history,
Seriously.
bro. I believe that is true.
I'm so happy I'm living now,
Me too,
right?
bro. Happy to be here with you, brother.
Dude, man, I love you.
It's amazing.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
for coming on, for everything. This has been great. Like you totally uplifted my spirits, man. Like it's just crazy we still haven't met before, man.
I
And
know.
like
I
I
missed
think
you
that
on
day.
that trip back to the Midwest. I was really bummed about that, man.
Oh, really? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Wait, what trip?
when I was going to meet you guys at Lake Michigan,
Oh shit, dude, that
just in
completely.
November, you
That's
know?
right.
Yeah,
I almost like I like cleared the slate,
yeah,
because
yeah,
yeah, it was kind of disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. Like we were
yeah.
so
I was
ready
super
for it,
bummed,
and
dude. Yeah,
yeah, but it's fine. It's fine.
yeah.
Again, you know what I mean? It's like God knows what's best, right? We guys just gotta remember that. Like whatever happens, like well,
That
maybe
was supposed to
this.
happen.
Yeah, or it's like good news, bad news, who knows? You remember that story, right?
Yeah,
Who
yeah,
knows, right?
yeah, yeah.
I
We'll
love
see. We'll see.
exactly. Be
Oh, what a
comfortable.
blessing. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll
Perhaps,
see. We'll see. The wise old man. We'll see.
perhaps. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yo, man. It's been great.
Yeah, this was dope, dude. Let's do it again. I also, through this conversation, I know a couple people that you should do a pod with. I'll put you on to them.
Sweet, awesome.
Yeah,
I'd really like that. Yeah, I'm looking for guests now. Like, I think like summer's coming and like I'm getting back into my spirits.
yeah.
So
That's awesome, dude.
that'd be
Yeah,
great.
I love it.
And also, let me know about your. Are you guys planning the trip or is there a registration process? Tell us more about that. Really.
We're planning it right now. We're kind of in the beginning stages of putting it out there to people and letting them know that this is something that's going on. We haven't figured out dates yet
Okay.
or cost or anything yet. So I'm just kind of schooling the people that are closest to me, like
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
For
hey, is this
sure.
something that you would be interested in? Like before we kind of begin marketing the whole thing, you know? And I'll keep you in the loop.
Yeah, I'll put your socials in the descriptions. People can
Perfect.
find you.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, let me know if I can help in any way.
Yeah.
You've been such a rock for me. Like I just really appreciate you, man. Like you're super solid and let's see what happens, right?
Yeah, it would be really cool if we could do like a birth chart reading or something like that for people as like part of maybe that could be part of the offering, you know? Like here's some tools for knowing yourself better and moving because I know that's helped with me, you know. I'm doing like the birth chart reading and stuff has helped me understand myself and how I could better operate or maybe giving context to my life previously, you know?
It's just a mirror. It's a mirror to you.
Yeah.
It's like something you can
Yeah.
actually look at and just
We
like
need more
decode.
sacred mirrors, bro,
Yeah, exactly.
you know,
Yep.
including you, me, and these other tools. You know? A sacred mirror letting you know what a gift of yours was. You know, it's
Hell yeah,
beautiful.
man. I'd love
Yep.
to contribute in any way that I can. So just let me
Yeah,
know, okay, man.
yeah, absolutely, bro.
Love you, brother, and
Love you,
until
bro.
next time.